When you think about Apple's history with phones, you probably think about the good old-fashioned iPhone. Or if you're a turbo nerd like me, maybe you hooked your Newton message pad up to a modem and yeah, made some calls that way. But Apple and phones go back a lot further than that. Hello? Hello? Yeah. Look at this thing. So this is a Macintosh 128K, which appears to have lived quite a life of hard labor somewhere. So today, let's crack this thing open, see what kind of wacky modifications there are inside, and then see if we can bring it back to life. So stay tuned. And if you enjoy the kinds of mild fire hazards that only mid-1980s homebrew computer hacking can provide, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. We get a lot of modded Macs around here, so it's definitely worth sticking around. There are a lot of enthusiasts and collectors out there who work very hard to painstakingly restore vintage computers to their original condition, and I'm so grateful for them. There's nothing quite like interacting with a lovingly restored machine to zap us back in time and bring computing history to life. But I have a soft spot for a different kind of vintage machine, the ugly duckling. The well-loved, well-worn machine that tells the story of its life through scars and especially interesting modifications. So this is a Macintosh 128K. It's actually a bit of an interesting variation of the 128K because it's not quite the original. You see, the original 1984 Macintosh was a Macintosh 128K, but back then it was just called the Macintosh. Now, 128K of RAM was an incredibly small amount for a machine with a full bitmapped graphical user interface. So 9 months later, Apple released the Macintosh 512 with, you guessed it, 512K of RAM, 4 times the memory. But surprisingly, they kept on selling the 128K alongside the 512 well into 1985, and since these two machines were literally identical aside from the memory, Apple started putting a 128K badge on the back of the 128s to differentiate them from the 512s. And that is what I have right here. A Macintosh 128K with the 128K badge, which I just think is so interesting. Okay, so now we need to talk about the thing you probably noticed straight away. This huge hunk of plastic hanging off the side of this thing. But first, a quick word about today's huge hunk of a sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay is a one-stop shop for high-quality PCB prototyping and production. But did you know that they also offer a ton of services for pretty much every step of your project? I'm talking about 3D printing, injection molding, CNC machining, sheet metal fabrication, and even PCB assembly services. Right now, they're running their 8th anniversary promotion with tons of coupons, huge sales on prototyping and assembly, and much more. So if you have any PCB needs, I hope you'll give PCBWay.com a try. So this telephone looking thing is, well, pretty much exactly what it looks like. It's a telephone stuck to the side of the case here, but it's also more than that. In fact, it's kind of genius. This is an Intermatrix Mac phone from 1984 and launched pretty soon after the Mac itself was first launched. And it's exactly the kind of anything goes creative thinking that was such a big part of 1980s and 90s computer culture. Sure, the device itself is pretty much just a telephone, but it came with some pretty genius software and it interfaced with the Macintosh actually plugging right into the audio jack. And through this relatively simple setup, it actually did something pretty amazing for 1984. It was a full-fledged call management system. This thing could dial phone numbers directly from the included software. It could answer the phone. It could log call times. It could do all kinds of stuff. And it's the biggest clue into why the system was modified with some of this other stuff, like this cable coming out of the back and especially this fan here. These original Macs were famously fanless, per Steve Jobs' insistence, but if this thing was running 24/7 on phone duty, a cooling fan would be a necessity. Now, of course, the smart thing to do at this point would be to crack this thing open and take a look at what's going on inside. And if you ever find an old machine that you don't know when it was last turned on, it's definitely recommended to take a look inside for broken components and loose stuff and blown up stuff before you ever try to turn it on. But do I look like a smart guy? All right, it's plugged in. All right, please don't explode. Hey, it chimed. It responds a little bit in this garbled pattern when I move the mouse, and then I get 0320, which apparently is some kind of a memory issue. So maybe we'll get lucky and we could just reflow some of these solder joints and get this thing working again. And wow, now that I'm this close, I can see the screen burn in. I bet this thing was pretty much running 24/7. Okay, there's actually no screws in these top two hard to reach screw holes. And wow, it is filthy in there. There's only these two screws here and the one screw in the battery compartment. And oh, this is the battery compartment door up here. Duct tape to the top. Ooh, that is some old duct tape. Gross. Yeah, it looks like this broke long ago. Now I have to be very careful in here because I'm pretty sure that the 128K does not bleed the charge out of the CRT here, and you should really never trust that that works even if it is in place. But yeah, let's discharge this CRT. All right, no pop, so I think we're good. And wow, there is a bunch of weird stuff in here. Check this out. This rather beefy fan in the back of here is just directly wired to the power switch and is getting mains current, I guess. And it's using part of what appears to be an extension cord or just the plug cord from some lamp or something. And then there's two wires here. They're wired to the analog board, but they don't actually go anywhere. This powered something, but most exciting, right here. Check this out. Oh yeah, we've got upgrades. Look at this. This is a board with a chip on it marked SCSI in handwriting, and look, there's an AMD logo. Neat. And yeah, let's carefully separate this and just... And then underneath this SCSI card, there appears to be even more. What is that? All right, here's the SCSI card removed. It's called the Monster Mac Overdrive SCSI by Levco Corporation. Neat. Oh, this is really exciting. Let's pull this motherboard out and see what else is on there. Whoa! Look at this. Holy cow. This, this is incredibly special. This board down here is the Mac 128K motherboard, and on top of it, covering most of the board, is a Levco Monster Mac upgrade, which is an incredibly hard to find upgrade for Mac 128s and 512s. And what this card does is add a ton of RAM, and you can go up to 2 megs of RAM on the board with this card, and it looks like our card is fully populated. And yeah, with this SCSI card, it basically turns this Mac 128 into a Mac Plus before the Mac Plus was ever released. I can't find a ton of information on when exactly this card came out or how many of them were made, but it was released before the Mac Plus. So for a time, this would have been the most powerful Mac you could get and have the most memory that you could possibly get in a Mac. 2 whole megabytes. I can't believe this is in there. Wow. The 2 PROMs are right here. Unfortunately, and I'm a little bit worried about this, the sticker on top of the PROM covers the little circle that you use to erase the PROM. So I put a sticker over here where this original sticker fell off. So I really hope that this didn't get erased after the sticker fell off. I hope I covered it in time, but let's see if we can get this to boot. I think what I'm going to do is check the connections on here, although I'm really afraid to take the upgrade card off. And I'm going to fix up some solder joints on the analog board. And then I do have capacitors for the Mac 128 board. There's only a couple on there that you really need to replace, but they're all underneath the upgrade card. I'm over the moon about this. I cannot believe my luck in getting one of these boards in this Mac. Okay, so here is our analog board, and looking closely at it, I don't see any components that are damaged or leaking or exploded, and in fact, I think some of these have been replaced in the past, because I'm pretty sure that these 2 capacitors here are supposed to be REFA capacitors from the factory, which are prone to exploding in a very smelly manner, but these are not REFA capacitors. And yeah, that's pretty cool. But I do have all new capacitors on hand for this, if it comes to that. But for now, what I want to do is clean up a little bit of this corrosion here by the battery compartment, which hasn't really touched anything just except for the bottom bit of metal here on the battery compartment itself. It's not actually even touching the PCB. And then I'm going to resolder some of the notoriously broken solder joints on here. Specifically, these solder joints right here for the power connector, they always go bad on these boards. Okay, I've resoldered all of the connectors on the analog board. I tested the continuity of pretty much everything. The analog board seems fine, and I rechecked over the logic board, of course, without taking that accelerator off yet. So let's plug it in and see if we get at least a stable picture. All right, that's a step in the right direction, actually, because the screen is now solid. There's not a whole bunch of janky stuff going on. Yeah, look at that. Perfectly solid screen. Analog board is fixed, and I think we just have a memory problem, I guess, with that board somewhere. Okay, so check this out. First, I got this old floppy disk out of the drive, which was making all that noise, and pretty sure that drive is bad because I'm pretty sure this isn't supposed to have a huge line gouged out in the magnetic media in there, so pretty sure this is toast. But I discovered that if I hold the mouse button down here and turn it on, look at that! Question mark. I don't know if that bypasses the memory check or something, but yeah, this thing boots. And if I use my trusty floppy emu plugged into the floppy port on the motherboard, I can boot this thing up. Happy Mac. And look at that right there, 2048K of RAM. That card appears to be working. We have 2 megs of RAM in the Mac 128. Oh, that is amazing. And then also, check this out. This disk we booted off of, yeah, that's the Mac phone disk. This is the software that goes with that Mac phone accessory, and it was just available on Macintosh Garden. I swear, everything is available on Macintosh Garden. Yeah, check it out. You can dial a phone. How cool is that? Check it out. I've got Smooth Talker version 1.0.
I can't believe this Mac 128K actually works with that sweet upgrade card. Totally mortal computing.
Okay, so that'll do it for today's video. I am so excited that I was able to get this supremely upgraded Macintosh 128K working again. And it seems to be working perfectly. Well, except for that weird error that I get if I don't hold down the mouse button when I start it up. But I'm sure that's fine. If you have any ideas on that, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. But aside from addressing that, there's a bunch of stuff that I want to try doing with this machine, other than also, well, cleaning it up, because it's still pretty gross. I definitely want to see if I can use that SCSI card to maybe interface with a RAS SCSI or a SCSI to SD and get an internal drive working on this thing. That would be amazing. Oh, and I'd really love to find the telephone piece for this Mac phone, so I'll probably have to keep an eye out on eBay for that. But if you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more Macintosh shenanigans like this, please subscribe down below, and thank you very much for watching. And a special thanks to Adrian, B. Perkins, Camilo Noceda, Chris Allegretta, Chris Briggs, Chris Calderon, Chris Nelson, Cobalt Retro Tech, Daniel Hubbard, Greg from Rutk Mods, Ryan and Scott Thompson, who are my highest tiered patrons, and all of my Patreon supporters who help to make these videos possible.